The Battlefield franchise has long been a multiplayer juggernaut, particularly on the PC, where its properly numbered sequels have always made their debuts. As good as its multiplayer has been, its single-player campaigns have almost all been mediocre, leaving more casual players marooned. Can Battlefield 3 deliver the complete experience?
Are you alone?
It's another story of a madman bent on world domination as the tyrant Solomon commands the PLR army in hopes of detonating nukes in major world cities. The US government is trying to sort things out, so it's called in US Marine Sergeant Blackburn for some passive interrogation. The good officer has been mixed up in some sticky situations, and as it turns out, he hasn't always come out with his hands clean. As he recants his Battlefield exploits, the player is transported to various global locations to act them out. So begins a trail of clues that leads you from one of Solomon's henchmen to the next until you fetter the scumbag out.
Подожди. Мы пойдем под обстрельный огонь.
You'll feel like you've played through the same exact story before. The ho-hum writing fails to build tension, and there's not enough interaction with the antagonists to build any sort of strong feeling. You'll glean more from in-game conversations than you will from the prefabbed interrogation cinemas that bookend each skirmish.
Who do you think did it, Sergeant?
The first job of a shooter's campaign is to entertain, and the second is to prepare you for the battles to come online. When you're talking about Battlefield 3's multiplayer, it's a lot of ground to traverse, yet the linear story manages to cover most of the bases. While the path is always clearly marked, and it has its share of corridors, there's a lot more open space to flank than you find in typical campaigns these days. This can be both good and bad, as death can come from just about any direction at any time. Frequent checkpoints keep the frustration from boiling, and while you get a healthy dose of gunplay and tank piloting, aircraft interaction in the campaign is quarantined to manning turrets. At around 5 hours, the single-player option is brief, but it's just the beginning.
Okay. I'm listening.
Tucked inside the online web interface that launches all of the game's modes is a cooperative option for up to 4 players. There's a tree of missions that give you some flexibility in how you move forward, but the mission types are so varied that any path will do. Light on any sort of story, these standalone missions take place in environments ripped from the campaign, but with different objectives. Some ask you to simply survive an onslaught of infantry and tanks, while others put specific weapon mastery to the test. In many ways, it does a better job of preparing you for the online environment than the story option. At about 15 minutes apiece with no checkpoints and 1 life to live, dying at the finish line can be disheartening, but ample ammo boxes and teammate revives help to balance the curve.
All right, buddy, you're good. Let's go, go, go!
The game is called Battlefield 3 after all, and it lives up to its name by delivering 64-player competitive throwdowns that are as close as it gets to simulating a real war. The vehicles truly set it apart from other modern shooters, and everything is structured to make sure that their use is maximized. Most of the 9 maps are absolutely massive, imploring you to hop in, and you can spawn directly into any open seat or on another player, keeping the cross-map marathons from piling up. Ultimately, Battlefield 3's multiplayer has just 3 different modes: Deathmatch, Rush, and Conquest. A few variations on each round out the rather humble selections. Conquest is the Battlefield classic, and it maintains that status here. It's essentially capture and hold, providing a simultaneous mix of offense and defense where smart vehicle usage can almost always shift the momentum. The Rush option has one team attempting to detonate locations while the other team tries to stop them. As each pair of locations is destroyed, the battlefield shifts to a new spot. While it tends to encourage camping, it does allow you to concentrate on a consistent style of play.
We have defused the charge.
Every mode changes drastically based upon which of the 4 classes you choose. Each one has much more versatility this time around, which is a good thing because you still can't create custom classes. There's a role for everyone in the game. Some will enjoy repairing tanks, some will not. As you play each class, you level up and unlock new weapons for that specific alignment. These upgrades come like an IV drip, and you have to work for them. Battlefield 3 is built for the long haul, but it will turn off those who play for instant gratification. That said, you can play online for days, never fire a single bullet, still grow in levels, and be entertained. Battlefield 3 is always launched from a web-based interface through Origin, EA's digital delivery service. If the internet or the site is down, you're out of luck. That said, this unconventional approach does function quite well, with plenty of sorting options to help you find a solid server. There's also the free Battlelog interface that allows you to pore over stats and participate in a surprisingly fleshed out online community. you're looking for gameplay variety from a shooter, Battlefield 3 fits the bill. While the campaign does include the obligatory QuickTime events and rebounding health meter, turret play, bombing, escort missions, and parachuting into the fray all get a shot in the spotlight. Mission objectives are doled out on the fly, and thanks to the campaign's brevity, never wear thin. While you almost always have someone that you're supposed to follow, it's not always the best idea, as they'll sometimes lead you into dodgy situations. Cautious is a good way to describe the campaign in general. Go running out into open spaces and you won't last long. And if the enemies don't get you, some of the game's many bugs might. Also be prepared to deal with some teammates who take the I out of AI. Of course, when you're online, you only have to worry about human stupidity, and with Battlefield 3, that can be both a blessing and a curse. Being successful requires a lot of coordination, so the highs and lows can be extreme based upon team makeup. A solid friends list is almost a necessity. There are almost too many authentic guns to count, and each has its own recoil, shot pattern, and effective range. Hit detection can be a little spotty at times, and bullet drop is subtle, but it's easy to get a feel for each weapon after firing just a clip or two. The same can't be said about the vehicles. Tanks and buggies are fine, but once you take to the air, prepare to be patient. The most underrated gameplay element is the fully destructible environment. Practically everything in the game can be toppled with enough gunpowder, and the unpredictable cover keeps things moving. You can be safe one moment and completely exposed the next. This uneasiness permeates every mode in the game.
You good?
There is little doubt that Battlefield 3 for the PC is one of the best-looking games ever released. Unlike hardware-pushing releases from the past, this game looks ridiculous even on moderately powered machines and cards. If you have a beast of a rig, prepare to be amazed over and over again. Even the dry art design can't keep this game from impressing even the most jaded player. Every inch of the environment is bathed in some form of digital trickery, and whether it's the lighting, texturing, or models, there aren't many games even in the same league. The weapon reports have a gusto about them that gets you right in the chest, and the battleground sound mix gets all the snapping and popping just right. Turn down the subwoofer or prepare for complaints as each shell thuds with suitable impact. The drab, lifeless voice acting doesn't do the script any favors, and music is used sparingly to punctuate big moments, but otherwise, it's almost non-existent. Battlefield 3 is a lot like prior games in the series. It features a stellar multiplayer suite with practically limitless replay value and a mostly forgettable campaign. The co-op missions are a nice addition, and to be fair, the single player is the best in series history, but it still falls short of its contemporaries. Online warfare is intricate and satisfying, but it also presents a learning curve and a strong reliance on team coordination. Enough can't be said about the presentation of the PC version, as it carries its own levels of reward. Battlefield 3 rewards those who truly enlist.
Shit. PLR.